Hey everybody, it's me, Ken, and what we're going to do is rebuild this Edelbrock carburetor. There she is right there. This is a marine carburetor. Here's the way you tell if you have a marine carburetor. You have this nozzle at the top. What that's for, you can kind of see on the inside here. I can get it for you. Right there where my thumb is, that's where it empties out to. If your diaphragm on your fuel pump goes bad, then and it bypasses the fuel, it'll, instead of leaking out, it'll actually goes up another tube, and it goes on that fitting right there and it dumps into the carburetor. So automotive carburetors do not have that. Here, I wanted to show you this kit. This is a really nice carburetor kit. It has everything in it. I paid $15 for the carburetor kit. We'll go ahead and get started on this thing. I guess the first thing I could do is on here, that's where your needle and seats go for your floats. So you have your float, and then it opens and closes the gas from entering your carburetor. So that's probably the first thing I'll do. Let's put those in. So if you look at these screens, on this end of that screen, it's closed. So if you turn it around backwards, you actually will stop your fuel from going. The fuel won't even go in there. So you want to make sure and have the open end up here in this thing so the gas will flow through and then come out the screen. But the problem I had was with this, when I took these out, these were real super hard. I actually had to take one of these. I've got an older one in here and a newer one. I had the new one in this side, but I never could get it all the way down. This one is all the way down, but I know what's wrong. So that's, I guarantee you that's metric threads, and this carburetor is, I'm sure, American made, and so it's standard thread. So that's a problem. I mean, I took a lot of force and I used a big screwdriver, and I did get it down in there, and it's seated, so I'm not worried about it. But this one, when I went to put it in there, I ended up breaking these little ears off, and I had to take an easy out and take it back out, the other new one. I never could get it all the way down. So, but the other old one, I actually had to take an easy out to get it out because it was so tight. But luckily I had this one still good, so I put the old one back in. It's nice and clean, so that's all that really matters. And here's the old needle. There's the old needle that goes in there. Kind of what they look like. And so I'm thinking I'm just going to go with my old needle and my old seat. Well, it's pretty obvious that these floats are not going to work. Not even close. So we have a clearance here. You can see it. And it's going all the way down to close this needle off. So I'm kind of liking it. It's looking good. I was a little worried about that piece that goes in there. It looks like I'm going to have to go out there and dig in the trash because I don't see it. And they didn't put one in the kit. And that's kind of what happens. You know, you get these kits. These things don't fit. They're wrong. When you try to bend them, they break. And then there was something else. Oh, these seats were metric threads, so they didn't fit either, but I made one fit. So I'm gonna go try to find that piece that goes in here. I'm gonna need that. This is the piece right there. That's what it looks like. And what it is, that's for your pump. Here's the accelerator pump, and that shaft goes through there and it keeps that from leaking. out the top of the carburetor, and it just sits right in there, sits in that hole right there. And then and I have to put this little thing here, that has to go on there to hold that in place. Okay, I made it back. There it is installed. I use a socket and a hammer just to knock it in there. Okay, I'm working. I got the little check ball. It goes in this hole right here. And on a lot of these, I looked at the video, the original carburetors, there was a spring in here that kind of looked like these little springs. But these are for the needles. But apparently there was a little spring in there and it kind of held that check ball down, and I guess when you give it gas it might raise up and just throw a little bit more gas through these nozzles on this thing. So this sits right here and that check ball's down in there, and so I got the gasket that fits it right there, and the kit came with, it's going to be hard to see, it came with that little piece right there, and on the end of it there's a spring. And if you drop that down in there, that hold, because they did say something about there was a weight that you could drop in there. Well, here looks like the weight that was with that little other piece with the spring. Now that's kind of like the weight, and it's shaped square, and these other ones aren't. So that's the weight, but it's got that little point on the end, and that causes it to stick up too far. So then it just jams that little check ball down where it can't move. But if you put this on there, you can feel the little spring action. So, and it'll let that, there's a hole in the top of this underneath there. There's a little hole. You can see it right there in the middle. And that part of that spring goes around that, and that pin goes inside, that little pin in there goes inside that hole, so it allows the movement for the check ball. And you know, I mean, I'm not going to look at any more videos. I'm kind of see how that works, and it does allow movement for the check ball. It's not the original spring that was in there, but I don't know what was in there because I can't find it. Apparently it didn't have anything in it. I'm not surprised. But we're going to put that in there, and I'm pretty sure that's the right way. So I'm going to get that down in there. And one almost put two gaskets. The guy said you could lighten that weight up and it'll let that ball go up a little faster and give you some kind of a little bit more acceleration and all that, but I'd kind of be afraid of that kind of stuff. I'm just going to go with what I got. I almost put the other gasket on top of that one just to maybe give it a little bit more room to move. But I think it, you know, that little rod goes up inside that hole in that little spring, so I'm sure that's what that's for. So we'll cross our fingers. Hopefully that's correctamundo. Now I've got these springs right here, and these are the adjustment where you adjust it with the jets, and they go right in here, so I'm just going to screw them in there. It seems like normally on this kind of stuff you just bottom them out, take them all the way in, as far as they'll go, and then usually I'd say about 1, there's 1.5 out. That's a good place to start. This, if you have a vacuum gauge, you can hook your vacuum gauge up, and while you screw this in and out, what you want is the most vacuum. So if you have a vacuum gauge and you're screwing it in and out, and it just, because the vacuum gauge gets to a certain point and falls off, that's kind of where you want it. There's 1.5. So these are adjusted, they got the right springs. And so I guess the next thing I want to do this pump, stick that in there, and I'm beginning to think that's not the right pump. That cannot be the right pump. It doesn't fit in the hole. Okay, here's the pump, accelerator pump. I took the rubber off the old one and put it on this new stem. The rubber in the new kit was just a tiny, it was just, when you laid it on top of this one, right here it is, you lay it on top of this one, it's smaller. You can kind of see around it, and it doesn't fit in the hole tight. So my guess is that it's the wrong one. So I changed out the pump again because there's a hole at the top that this little piece right here, this little S thing, that has to go in this top of this pump. So the hole in the other one was too small. That pump does not like me. So we're going to put the top on. Just take all these screws. This was an extra gasket. Put them in all the holes. Alright. There's really no certain way. Just, you don't want to tighten anything. Just kind of barely. Just get them down there until you get them all down, then you can start tightening up slowly. Okay, it's starting to look like a carburetor. The next thing I want to do is put these needles in right here. There's a little spring that holds them on there and everything. See if that makes any difference. So there's a spring that goes up inside this thing. Okay, there it goes. I think you can actually just kind of take the screw loose and turn these to the side, but since I took it all apart and cleaned it. Okay, so you see what I did there. So what we're going to do next is put this on. I'm going to take the screw back out because that's the one that fit. What I was working on was this thing here. It's got like a little S. You can see it. Got like a little S clip thing there. This little S thing. It goes in like that, and then it hooks in right in back behind the carburetor right back here. So, and that's what it works your pump. Finish up this side over here. There's a little clip in there. We'll take him out. And, this fit on here. So far so good. Got all the brackets over here on then. I'll show you where they're at. That one works as a choke. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I paid $15 for that for that kit, but I had to use some old parts. I mean, if you bought an Edelbrock one, it'd probably cost you a lot more money, but you would probably get the right parts. I mean, the pump, the accelerator pump, which is right here, I had to use the old one on that because this one was too small. And on those, the floats, these were junk, so I'm throwing those away. I used the original old ones. These feel cheap. The other ones feel better. And one of those needle and seats, I had to use the old one. And when I took the two old ones out, I actually had to use an easy out to get one of them out. The other one I screwed it out, and then when I tried to put the ones from the kit back in there, they were the wrong threads. They were metric threads and either SAE. So I forced one in. I couldn't get the other one all the way in. I had to take an easy out and get it back out. And then I put one of the old ones back in on that side. So that fixed that problem. So I kind of got lucky and was able to use my parts that I had. But it doesn't always work out like that. I guess I'm basically done with this thing. They're pretty easy. I had to run back and forth the garage for some different things that didn't quite go right. Other than that, though, it was alright. Completed rebuild. At least now I have a marine I'll have a marine carburetor on my boat. And I'm sure if you guys saw the pictures of this thing when it was underwater and all that, it was really bad shape. But it's pretty now. Looks good. It's clean. So I don't foresee any problems. But we're going to move on. We'll move on to the next stage.